like this, I don't fold. Faith in motion, mind on goal. Move with purpose, never pause. Lead with light and guard the cause. Build like this, no need to prove. Every step I make it move. Ain't for clout, this real grit. You can't fake the bill for this. Woke up strong, laced in grace. 10 toes down, I claim my space. Never begged, I break through fear. I built for decades, not just years. I seen pain, turn that gold. Learn to sell while still hold soul. My team eat when I speak truth. That's real pressure in that booth. From insurance to influence, from broke thoughts to evidence. I ain't selling, I'm protecting legacy in every section. They cut like this, they dug. I confront that storm with love. I move bold, speaking.
All right, what's crackalackin', everybody? Welcome to the Millionaire Responds on the Seven Figure Squad YouTube channel here every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Of course, I'm starting today, Filipino time apparently. But speaking of that, we want to kick off this YouTube live stream on Seven Figure Squad on the Millionaire Responds show. To all my Filipino Americans out there, this is our month. Happy Filipino American History Month. If you want to cut to my screen right quick, little fun fact. About 10 years ago, I was invited to the White House. This was the invitation. And we got sent out. We got the, I don't know, is there another? There it is. Okay. So we were invited out October 2nd, which is an epic day in Washington, D.C. And the coolest part is a diverse group of different career paths and backgrounds, about 30 prominent Filipino-American leaders throughout the nation. The goal of the Leaders Forum is to discuss importance to the Filipino-American community and to establish a collective plan of action to help build the community's infrastructure and capacity. And so when we went out there, it was a blast. Let me just show you some of the pictures we had. Of course, you know, there's some very famous Filipinos here. You know, got the purple cafe down there in Washington, D.C., the only Filipino-owned restaurant in Washington, D.C. Billy Deck there was the one who invited me to this thing. He was the key guy of holding this initiative under Obama. Just prominent Filipinos here from across the country. There it is, Purple Patch restaurant. And so the next day we went down to the White House and we tore it up, man. We had a blast at the White House. I took my mother with me. Mom, this is some historic things that you are experiencing, your son is doing because of your courage to come here from the Philippines. And it's my mom right there by the White House. It was a rainy day that day. Of course, we had to visit the Iwo Jima. I have a picture of the Iwo Jima War Memorial because we went to go visit that too as well. But took my mom on a little field trip with me to this event. She couldn't get in because, you know, you obviously had to have a special invitation. There was no like a +1 type of deal. But this is a conversation we're about to go before we go into the White House. This is the West Wing. And right inside is United States Marines guarding the West Wing. But we go inside this thing and we just establish connections, establish new relationships, this is my buddy Eugene Amano, who's the first Filipino ever drafted into the NFL. So big brother too, man. 6'3", 320. Big dude. You know, just some entrepreneurs here from across the country sharing ideas of how to grow our community. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I was giving honor to this, what do you call that? This intern, because she was the one who was responsible for putting my name on a PowerPoint in the White House. So there it is. Little piece of history from 10 years ago. And then we got to meet, Joe Coy was invited to as well. So Joseph, tearing up his entire career in a very positive way, just doing it up. Apple the app of Black Eyed Peas. He performed for us. Filipino. Yeah, we just tore it up there, man. And we had a panel discussion of how we can, by the way, this is, I forgot what her name was, but she, the chef at the White House. Totally forgot her name, brain fart right now. But she's been a chef there for 20 years. Would you believe a chef in the White House for 20 plus years, 3 different administrations, is a Filipino woman? And of course, we had to have song and performance, dance, you name it. You know, panel discussion there just means there's a senator from Hawaii, happens to be Filipino. So lots of Filipinos are starting to do the thing, man. And This is our month, Filipino American History Month. So what is Filipino American History Month? More than just marking this moment, Filipino American History Month celebrates the long journey, resilience, and contributions of Filipino Americans, from field workers and nurses to soldiers to artists to entrepreneurs and leaders. It's not just remembering history, it's about recognizing the Filipino American impact in America today, reclaiming our identity, and rewriting our future in America. And it reminds every Filipino American that we are not just part of America's past, but we're also builders of the future. So hats off to my fellow Filipinos. If you guys didn't know I was Filipino, everybody thinks I'm Samoan or something like that, Hawaiian. If you see me in person, that is correct. Let me just dispel the rumors. I am 6'3". I am 230 some pounds. People think I'm Samoan. Chee-hoo! We get along. Polynesians, you name it, big dogs. All right. By the way, funny story. Right in my life insurance business, one morning we had a production meeting because we are about diversity. We want to sell insurance, bring financial literacy, bring retirement planning to the masses. We got 5,000 agents across the country doing it. And there's one year we had a large Polynesian contingency from our Seattle, Washington location, Tacoma, Washington. Pulalasi, shout out to the Pulalasis. And anyway, make a long story short, we're going to a production meeting. And we noticed that we had about 10 policies that were declined. Now, when we were at business, I don't like declined policies. So I was going over, quality control conversation. And anyway, make a long story short, found out that the policies that were written were on children. What are you talking about? Well, how easy it is to write a life insurance policy on a child. So I was asking my agent, what'd you guys do wrong? I mean, how easy could it be to write? This is one of the simplest policies you ever write, application to write some life insurance on a child policy. And so I don't know, man. We dotted our I's, we crossed our T's. I don't know what's going on. You see, American life insurance companies are not very diverse. A lot of their clientele is not very diverse. And this is a shocking example of it. Because when I looked at the names of our applicants, there were Polynesian names. How can I tell? Long last names, a bunch of vowels and a bunch of apostrophes. You know what I'm talking about. To our Polynesian community. The long last names kind of tipped me off that they're Polynesian. And I said, okay, what's wrong with the Polynesian applicants? These are child policies, child applications. We don't know. And so we called the insurance company and said, what's wrong with the applications? These are some of the kids are healthy. Sir, what's that? Sir, these are child policies, but sir, these aren't children. I said, what are you talking about? Sir, when we see the height and weight, okay, 6'2", 250, 10-year-old, 6'3", 325, 11-year-old, 5'10", 285, 8-year-old. You know what I'm getting at with this, right? If you don't know, now you know. Polynesians are some large human beings. And the life insurance companies here in America just don't understand that these type of human beings exist. That we should have a category in their underwriting guidelines for Polynesians, or to understand the Polynesian community. So I'm just happy here to say, because a Filipino-American entrepreneur, we introduced a lot of the life insurance industry to the Polynesian community, and the Polynesian community to the life insurance industry is a two-way street, because Polynesian people love their families, they love Jesus, they love God, they love their aloha, they love the spirit, and they need life insurance because they want to create generational wealth too as well through smart financial tools like life insurance. So thank God for the life insurance companies. They understood it. They underwrote it. Make a long story short, if you did figure it out, they issued the policies on kids that were 11 years old, but looked like grown human beings. And by the way, they're just about to hit puberty. So we have an interesting lineup today here. We're gonna talk about a bunch of things. Jerry Jones, speaking of life insurance, Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, has a very interesting article here about his beginnings before he built this behemoth of a sports franchise called the Dallas Cowboys. Where did he learn his basic skills? How did he learn what he does today. You'll find out here in a second. What about buying and renting a home? I'm on a national tour across the country on the Keep the Keys book tour. And on the Keep the Keys book tour, if you want to know where I'm at across the country, I'll be in San Antonio this coming Thursday. Very, very excited about San Antonio because a guy by the name of Patrick Wilbanks is leading that initiative. He's running our office here. He's one of our agency builders in San Antonio. 14 years in real estate as a real estate agent. Now he's a financial services professional, taking exactly what he learned from real estate, understands the ups and downs of the market, ups and downs of the business. And now he sees a lot more stability, safety, and security in the insurance business. So this is a way for him to glue a lot of client relationships in between closings. And a lot of real estate agents, a lot of loan officers are finding these 7 strategies that's inside the book, Keep the Keys. And if you want to get a tip off on what some of these strategies are, go to my website, keepthekeysbook.com. Get 2 free tools I have for you, which is a clarity scorecard and a clarity worksheet, and how to help you understand where to put your money, your finances, help you make better decisions as regards to your finances. 2 free tools, keepthekeysbook.com. Oh, the website's not up there, huh? So keepthekeysbook.com. So that's where the official tour website will be, keepthekeysbook.com, for those free tools, as well as the location sites for the book tour. So we were talking about rent or buy. What's best for you? A mortgage called zombie mortgages are starting to come up. A lot of people in America are starting to get infected by it. We'll discuss what zombie mortgages are. A 26-year-old, 26-year-old finds herself not only so-so with her income, but massively in debt. Okay, we're going to talk about that and break down what you need to know, what we can do. Also, we talk about the difference between 24 years old versus having some experience between 24 years. So one thing to be 24 years old versus having 24 years of experience. And there's a video here we're going to watch too as well, in terms of the people you can help and the people you can help. And then I have a final thought here about this month of being Filipino History Month. All right, so let's take a first look at Filipino Americans. And if you didn't know why, a lot of them are considered the second largest income earning ethnicity in America, right behind Indians, people from India. Number 2 is Filipino. 3rd is Chinese. So let's take a look at this and what happened. Why are so many Filipinos in America today making an impact as it relates to their salary?
Today, there are approximately 4.2 million Filipinos in the U.S., either through their ancestry or recent immigrants. The majority of them today now are regarded as skilled people. This imposes the question we needed answers for. It is because around the 1930s to 1960s, with the immigration reform, the U.S. had only allowed skilled laborers. Hence, this helped push that selective groups of people who can actually perform for the United States country. Hence, one of the many reasons why Filipinos have become so rich is that they were selective people. Selective people who are among...
So in other words, unlike different countries, the Filipinos only either selected, or the people that applied can come to America. It wasn't just everybody. And then when they got here, it wasn't just everybody that can be let in, compared to what you see in the immigration today. And I'll also say my theory behind all this is because all the wars that America had been involved in, they had to send their nurses overseas to Europe. They had to send their nurses overseas to Korea during the Korean War. Had to send their nurses overseas to Vietnam during the Vietnam War. Some of you may have remembered that show back in the day named MASH. And that was a story of, and if you saw the doctors and the nurses, they were both white. So there's no Filipino nurses there. Today, you go into a hospital, I guarantee you 80% of the nurses in America today have 1 to 2 ethnicities. It's either Filipino or Nigerian. Filipino or Nigerian is the ticket to come into America through a selection process in the Philippines. So just because you wanted to go to America from the Philippines doesn't necessarily mean that you can automatically go, even if you can afford to come here or scrape up some cash. Again, my parents have a very interesting story how they both came to America. Obviously, my mother came here through the nursing program because she went to Mary Johnson College of Nursing on the Philippine University there in Manila. But my mother was a country girl. She was raised in a country in the provinces in Nueva Vizcaya. And she speaks Ilocano. She's an Ilocana. So my parents, there's a main dialect called Tagalog. My mom speaks Ilocano. And then when she went to the city, went to Manila, guess who was running the streets? My father was running the streets. My dad was running a gang in the streets of Manila. My dad he was a Filipino gangbanger, tough guy, right? And anyway, he found a way to get the attention of my mother. But here's the funny thing about my father. Every day he had one of his plebes, one of his newbies. Every day he'd have one of his plebes. Every Friday, every Friday or every other day, he put a rose on my mom's dormitory door. But Dad had no game. He didn't even step. He didn't even, no Mac, nothing. Never approached her, nothing. Anyway, my mother graduates, leaves America. My dad's like, where is she? She left America in this nursing program. What? Okay. My father, who's a very good driver, tour guide in the Philippines, busted teeth, but he was just a great energy, great positive energy. All the Americans coming, he's touring everybody. Make a long story short, he runs into his father. He runs into his friend's father, who owned an airline. And my father made such an impression upon his friend's father as somebody that can speak English, as somebody that went above and beyond. See, one thing that you have to understand too as well is don't just get a job. Find a way to be invaluable at that company. That's what my father did. He wasn't barely working. He made himself invaluable. And then my buddy's, my friend, my dad, my father's friend, his buddy, said, hey, my father wants to know if you want to come to America, go to Indiana University. I said, what? For sure. Comes to America on a student visa, goes to Indiana University, finds out that college ain't for him, ends up in Chicago. And guess who he finds in Chicago? Gets invited to these church events, gets invited to these weddings. Guess who he finds at this wedding, attending the same wedding? My mother. Finds my mother at the same wedding. If that's not a sign from God, my dad had him dead. He had a Mac, he had a step. But what a crazy story that if God wants certain things to happen, they'll make it happen. Praise God to that. And 4 years later, I'm here. So, selected people who were amongst the top of the ladder in the Philippine population, and they had to be in some form of valuable skill.
Amongst the top of the ladder in the Philippines population were doctors, nurses, engineers, and so on.
That explains
This is one of the reasons why we presumably think that there had been a lack of professional people in the country, as they had left the mainland to seek better opportunities. For that matter, on the other hand, is an entirely different thing, as it is also noted that these immigrants had been one of the backbones of growth for the country of the Philippines, done through remittance, which has been averaging over $30 to $35 billion annually, which is around 10% of the total nominal
GDP?
gross domestic product of the Philippines. Further, Filipinos are known to be hooked into the medical field,
Yes.
commonly nurses.
Yes.
This is again one of the reasons why they are being paid so high, as medical professionals also on average in the US earn a lot more than any other profession.
By the way, a lot of doctors from the Philippines come to America. They don't want to go through the whole doctor certification education program to start medical school all over again. So guess what they become here in America? They're doctors in the Philippines, but they become nurses in America. Talked about being highly qualified. And so, this is for those you don't know, when the Spanish-American War ended in 1899, the Spanish colonies of Puerto Rico, of the Philippines, of Guam, and I want to say Cuba, they were turned over to America. I'm probably wrong on Cuba. But these became U.S. territories right away, okay? The U.S., the Caribbean area there, right? Minus Cuba. I'm probably wrong on Cuba. But that became American territory. So now these folks that were normally were enslaved by the Spanish are now considered a U.S. territory, which were able to enjoy some of the benefits of being a U.S. citizen without necessarily being a U.S. citizen. And so one things they established in those areas was colleges and universities where they would train people and build up the next wave of workers for our nation. So that's what happened to many Filipinos, but they didn't teach in the Philippines. That's why so many Filipinos have such a hard time with their lineage, their ancestors, when they watch my channel and they want to talk to their friends and family that are also Filipino about being an entrepreneur. because this goes against what a lot of us were bred to be, either an engineer, a doctor, an accountant, an attorney, a professional. That's what a lot of Filipino kids are known as, to be a professional. I went completely against the grain. I was black sheep before I even knew it. And I remember a long time ago, I knew I wasn't wired for school. I was wired for sports. I was wired for intensity. I was wired for action. Something that I didn't know would ever be attached to my two things, which is being an entrepreneur. Number two, being in the insurance business, getting an insurance license. Never thought those two things would ever come in. And when I told my friends and family, like, what are you talking about? Get a job. Stop playing around. You get a real job. That's not a real thing. Get a real job. Same thing too. You'll hear that from Joe Coy. Joseph, you want to be a clown? Look around their family. Who is funny? Nobody in our family is funny. You see, those different things, right? So Joe Coy, if he didn't have any strength of fortitude, but he's half white and half Filipino, which meant that his father was in the military. It's got a joke. That's his joke. I ain't claiming that. But this is a big reason why a lot of Filipinos that come to America are professionals and they have certain jobs when it comes. So they're just not coming here to be a manager at Jifalube. And there's a certain amount of population. Just so you guys know, one of the longest lines to get into immigration are immigrants coming in from the Philippines. So what's going on in society today, a lot of Filipinos are actually, silently like, we kind of like what's going on with immigration. You know why? Because instead of our timeline waiting to get to America the legal way, we're getting pushed back the last 4 or 5 years to the back of the line all the time because people keep cutting the line to get into our country through, what do you call that? That word they use. They're escaping political, what's that word I'm thinking about? They're refuge. What's the word? I'm brain farting. I'm an economy guy, not a political guy. But my point is this: Filipinos just don't jump the border. They find a way to come here through school, to educated, to be a professional. So there's a little bit of truth there in terms of why, or a lot of truth there between why many of them have higher incomes when they come to America. My father ended up being a manager in logistics for Sears, and I can't tell you how many times he got laid off because he never became an engineer, never became an accountant, never became an attorney. My mother, on the other hand, had an irreplaceable type of job. She's a nurse. So you can always find a job as a nurse. And today, many of the nurses, there's a nursing shortage. So a lot of the nurses are exhausting from COVID. A lot of them are just traveling nurses. But a lot of my cousins are nurses because they're my aunties. They were nurses. So naturally, they become nurses, both male and female. Me, black sheep. Me, entrepreneur. Me, insurance. But does that mean all of my clients, my family became clients? Absolutely not. The irony behind that. I've made more money with strangers than I ever had with friends and family. Just keep that in mind. If you share my story, like a lot of your friends and family don't support you in business, just know this. Money Smart Guy, 7-figure squad. I've made a lot more money with strangers than I ever have had with friends and family. And I'll say this too as well. We all have two tribes we're a part of in our adult life. Number one, the family of our origin, the family you were born into, the people you have DNA with, those are your relatives. But it's the people that you choose, your family of choice, the people that believe in you, that's your family. It doesn't matter if somebody's white, black, brown, they have the same last name as you, they come from the same neighborhood, the same ethnicity as you. People that believe in you, support you, buy from you, encourage you, show up with you and for you, that's your family. The people that don't support you, they have the same last name as you, the same melanin and skin that you got, hey, we're relatives. I'm related to you, I respect you. But at the same time too as well, don't be around when I have the success of my endeavors and yet you feel entitled to be part of it because we grew up together and we knew each other when you're short. No, we don't work that way. You weren't around when I was building this thing. Don't expect to be around when I'm reaping the harvest of this thing I built 10, 20, 30 years in doing so. And so, matter of fact, was having a breakfast meeting this morning, and the guy was making a comment. The guy was making a comment on my car outside because I driving a Maybach. He said, "Man, I don't see very many Maybachs around here, especially SUVs like yours. Man, what's your advice, young server?" The guy was at the diner at the restaurant this morning. And I said, let me give some advice. I don't know if very many people buy into the story in this day and age. 2 words: delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. In the meanwhile, you put in the work. You focus in on your craft. You focus in on your results. So what do you mean by that? I said, I was 42 years old before I had my first pair of J's. Do you know why? Because I reinvested everything back into the business. My wife was 37 years old before she got her first house. Why? Because we invested back into the business. Now we live here in this beautiful neighborhood here in Frisco. And I was talking to the guy. I was talking to the guy who's taking my order at Chick-fil-A. And he says, man, nice car, blah, blah, blah. I says, what's your strategy? I said, I noticed your belt buckle is Gucci belt. Uh-huh. I said, it's the same as mine. Big difference is you're making $15 an hour. I'm making seven figures. Once I cracked $500,000, then I was thinking about Gucci and Louis. But before then, I'm thinking Marshalls and TJ Maxx. By the way, still do. And so delayed gratification, everybody wants success today. There's very little invoking of patience, work ethic, and drive. There used to be a time in America where you work for the unions and you're like the lead guy. I don't call you who you call the foreman. But for a while, you had an apprentice. For a while, you had a journeyman working under you. Think about a Star Wars, right? Luke Skywalker was the young Jedi. He was working under Obi-Wan Kenobi. He was being mentored by him. And then Obi-Wan Kenobi was being mentored by who? Yoda. So there's a hierarchy leader there in terms of, hey, listen, man. And by the way, Obi-Wan Kenobi was older and still being mentored by Yoda. And Yoda in Star Wars, what, 500 years old? Young Luke Skywalker coming up, wants to be the supreme leader. But he had to know there's steps to success. There's a rhythm to this. And so when you're looking at steps to success, let's look at this story between Jerry Jones and the life insurance industry. Jerry Jones, let's look at this article. Jerry Jones nearly bought the Chargers and learned about business the hard way. Okay, let me see if I can zoom this up. Is that better? So this is by Jerry Jones. Is there a way you can put it where I'm wide and I'm just a little bit at the bottom? Like centered in the bottom? Yeah. Okay. Not to the right or to the left, but centered in the bottom. Okay. I've been working since I was 9 years old. He was born in LA in 1942, and parents had moved there as part of the war effort, working in aircraft plants and raising poinsettias and greenhouses for the soldiers. My family soon moved to Little Rock, Arkansas, where my dad got into the grocery business. My mom would dress me up in a bow tie and have me greet customers. So looks like power couple back then. Husband and wife working together in business. So I always advocate, if anytime a husband and wife can work together in business, please do. This whole splitting up of careers, you do your thing for 8 hours a day, you do your thing for 8 hours a day, I'll see you tonight for dinner at 6. And then we'll do something with kids, maybe a little bit of extracurricular activities at night. Now, man, if you can find a way for husband and wife to work together today in business, that's the way it's always been. And so he says in his article, my mom would dress me up in a bow tie, have me greet customers. My dad liked to wear white suits and cowboy hats. In a supermarket, he built a big bandstand right in the middle of the floor and held amateur talent shows and did radio broadcasts. What a great way to market your grocery store. Any flair I might have for marketing and showmanship, I learned from him. Hence, he took that into the Dallas Cowboys. Then he worked in college, went to the University of Arkansas. We met and married his wife. I owned a small interest in several oil wells. And then, look at this, I sold life insurance to businessmen and also sold shoes in fraternities. So he was all around. Boom. The sports writers called me the Razorback businessman. My master's thesis was titled The Role of Oral Communication in Modern Day Football. Well, let me just highlight here, him selling life insurance. I know he downplays it, but the truth is that when his father sold the life insurance industry, the agency, and got out of the life insurance industry, he got a nice chunk of money. And the nice chunk of money went to buying more oil wells. And we were, one Thursday, we were looking around because I'm looking at buying a church. And we saw a few churches, and we were at the Cowboys Club with my commercial real estate agents, Roy and Tor, and we're doing the numbers on what it takes to buy a church. And then we look up, and Jerry Jones is walking right towards us. He's got a meeting behind us. So we got up, met Jerry. Jerry, nice to meet you, et cetera, et cetera. And can I ask you a question? Because sure, go ahead. I learned about your beginnings in business selling life insurance. She goes, let me tell you a story about that. One of my favorite stories. What's that? I was selling a policy one weekend to a local businessman. He brought his 2 daughters in, bought a policy for himself and bought a policy for his 2 kids. Interesting, huh? See, rich people buy life insurance on their kids. And so he wrote a policy for him and wrote a policy for his two daughters. And make a long story short, guess what his name was? I eventually found out later on was a very prominent name. His name was Sam Walton, the CEO founder of Walmart. Much encouragement to all of the life insurance agents out there selling policies to entrepreneurs and small business owners. Who knows? We might be the next Walmart of 2060. Might be the next Jeff Bezos of Amazon of 2080. But insurance agent out there, the courage that's necessary to build an insurance business by talking to people about a subject matter that a lot of people find a lot of uncomfort in doing so. God bless you guys. Keep it up. So that's my little story about Jerry Jones getting involved in the insurance business. His beginnings of selling an intangible product helped him sell a tangible product later on down the road, which is the Dallas Cowboys, and recruit people to his team as a free agent. And if you haven't done so yet, I want to promote this Netflix special. If you haven't done so yet, I think every entrepreneur needs to watch this. It is a Netflix special about the gambler and his Cowboys. The gambler and his Cowboys. Scandals, Super Bowls, and the team's rise and fall. The untold story of the 90s Cowboys is finally here. Great series. Great series. And you're going to learn about business. You're going to learn about these 2 guys right here, Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, who are both from Arkansas, making a way for themselves in Dallas. Nobody liked them because they're from the sticks, the Hicks from the sticks. But guess what? People in Dallas were willing to look at once they started winning. Once they started winning, and Landry was a beloved coach. I mean, the day he left the Dallas Cowboys, the city shut down and gave him a parade. He didn't win a championship. He just retired. The city shut down, gave him a parade. That's how much I loved him, Tom Landry. Well, this guy comes in. Jerry Jones disrupts everything. Everybody can't stand the guy. He's not from Dallas. And then he brings his college buddy, Jimmy Johnson. Everybody needs to watch the story. It's a story of recruiting. It's a story of getting rid of the losing culture, getting rid of Herschel Walker, your top player, to get draft picks. So therefore, you can draft new blood to create a new culture, to build a championship organization. 4 or 5 years later, that's when they started winning. Not today. See, delayed gratification. Great story that everybody should consider watching here. The 90s Cowboys documentary called The Gambler and His Cowboys on Netflix. All right, so next topic here I want to bring up is my boy Adam Sosnick shows up on a Tommy Lauren show on Fox. And she, by the way, they were flirting during the PBD podcast, and I think they had one thing led to another, and he was able to be a guest on her show. Yes, Adam, she's married. But she's very, very articulate, very sharp, new talent in media. Looking forward to her show growing. Meanwhile, our buddy Adam Sosnick here, who I call it Saucy, one of the lasting original outside of Patrick Bet-David hosts of the PBD podcast. And before it was a PBD podcast, it was called the Bet-David Show. Before it was a Bet-David Show, it was called the Unusual Suspects. So Sosnick has seen a lot of the iterations of the PBD podcast to where it's at today. And a lot of people know him as somebody who's on a Democrat left. There's no way I'll never, ever vote for Trump. Well, guess what? He saw what's going on with his party. He saw, and he's got a Jewish background. He saw what's going on in the craziness in the world. And he saw who was making much more sense. Make a long story short, 2024, he voted for Trump. That doesn't mean he's a Republican either. He's center right. He can still be pulled left, depending on how he continues to perceive the world and based on what the current administration is doing, and see if the current party can still earn his vote for the next presidential candidate coming from that party. By the way, who do you think that is? Who do you think is going to be the next presidential candidate coming out of the Republican Party? Who the next presidential candidate is going to be out of the Democrat Party? I'm just curious. The only interest I have in politics is what policies they will create. They'll help me better provide for my family. If there's economic policies that I care about at the top of the list, yeah, for me, it's not human rights. It's not immigration. It's not Second Amendment. It's not, what do you call that? The Green Deal. I care about one thing. At the top, by far, beats number two. By far, number one is economic policy. How do I, as a citizen, as a man here in America, protect and provide for my family? And go with life, go with liberty, and with the pursuit of happiness without the government or bullies showing up to slow me down. That's what I'm interested in. By the way, what economic policies are you interested in? Put in the comment section below. I'm curious what you guys at the top of your list is the most important to you. Because to me, no matter what happens in the White House, the most important thing goes on in your house. Yes, I got invited to the White House under Obama. Yes, I got invited to the White House under Secretary Hillary Clinton. I've made money with Democrats. I've made money with Republicans. I made money with both. Because I don't care about red. I don't care about blue. I care about green. I care about one race. I care about human beings. I care about if you're qualified to do the job. I care about if you're willing to do the job. I care about your character versus your skin color. Your resume of executing certain projects versus your degrees. That's what I care about. So on her show, he gets asked here very quickly about some bad decisions people are making financially across the country. And a conversation come up about renting or buying. Let's take a look here. What this conversation unraveled in terms of renting or buying real estate, your home in America today. Take a look at this.
All right, question for you right now in this market, a real estate question. A lot of young people, a lot of Gen Zers, they're renting and they don't even want to buy. They just want to rent, maybe endlessly, maybe for the next 5-10 years. Is that smart financially for them to do, or are they better off even getting into a modest home, which they can own?
So the realtors are not going to like this answer. Rent, 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 rent. Now, I've never bought a piece of property in my life. Now, the realtors are like, are you crazy? You know, I don't like talking about money, like my money, but I feel like it's the right thing to do is say that I've become very successful. I've made millions of dollars and I've never bought a piece of property. But
by the way, what have you guys done? For those of you watching this right now, I've known Adam for a while now. I've showed 8 years. I've known Adam 8 years. 9 years? A while now. I've known Adam for a while. Just funny thing about Adam, doesn't own a car either. Doesn't own a car. Ubers everywhere. Doesn't have a car payment, but Ubers everywhere. One thing about Adam too as well is he's got 2 cats, no wife, no kids. Single, in his 40s. You know where, if you want to know where to go in Miami, he's the guy. What was Jennifer Lopez's first husband? His tall brother, big dude, baseball player, divorced later on. Well, Adam's good friends with him, and that's Adam's situation. Never owned a piece of property before. Doesn't own a car. Doesn't have a wife. Doesn't have kids. Got 2 cats. Context. So let's continue, Adam.
with all the money I'm saving on a mortgage and HOA and maintenance and taxes and fees, I've pumped in a lot of money into appreciating assets like my investment account, my Roth IRA, my 401k, my index funds, my ETFs. So the American dream has shifted. You know,
I agree. The American dream has definitely shifted. That's why I write about in my book, Keep the Keys, is that when I write in the book, Keep the Keys, I talk about the American dream is no longer a picket fence, house in the suburbs, kids, dog. No. In my opinion, the American dream is income, control, and liquidity. Owning your income. That's what you want. You want to make sure that whatever you got going on, your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. Gone are the days where you own a piece of real estate. I think here are the days of owning your income through entrepreneurship, through your own practice. I mean, before I became an entrepreneur, I was self-employed for 11, 12 years. I sold life insurance for 11, 12 years. But that skill set of learning how to sell life insurance to make a living, making $350,000 a year doing it, and employing other people, employing a marketing agency, employing a direct mail campaign manager, employing a landlord to grow my business, the 2 staff members, that all taught me the basic premises of how to start building a business from scaling from a personal practice into a business owner. But to Adam's point, I don't feel that the American dream today is real estate. What do you think? What's the American dream to you? Put in the comment section. Is it a home? Is it business ownership? If it's financial freedom, what does that look like though? Financial freedom at what level? What income level? What net worth level? What do you think financial freedom is? We do workshops 4 times a week at our office. People say, I want to be free. I want to be financially free. Great. Here's my follow-up question. What's the number? What do you mean? What's the income you got to hit? What's the net worth you got to hit? What type of passive income do you need to have from your savings and investments, royalties and ownership, business ownership, deeds and trust, etc.? Do you need to have come your way every month, so therefore you don't have to actively work for money? You got your money working for you. What's the number? No clue. And I throw out the $1 million number. Imagine you having a retirement account of $1 million. Would you be retired? Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd be retired by $1 million. Really? Okay, let's invoke the 4% rule. What's the 4% rule? No matter what you've got saved up, in this example, $1 million, you can't withdraw more than 4%. Otherwise, you risk eating too much of the farm. You risk spending too much of the money down where it cannot recoup what you took out in previous years. And you're in risk at taking out less going forward every year going forward because your balance starts to shrink. So let's do the 4% rule. So do the 4% rule. 4% of $1 million is only $40,000. By the way, can we do the iPad here? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay. Where's that app at? Thank you for your patience, everybody. Instead of just telling you, I'm going to show you. Okay. Thanks, big dog. Okay. So here, okay. Let's say you got $1 million. Sounds good, right? Until what? You invoke the 4% rule. The 4% rule says what? I can only put a withdrawal slip of $40,000 in my account in retirement. Okay? And the average person today, average household income today is $75,000 a year, median household income. And if you're looking at this median household income, how much does $40,000 affect that $75,000? Does it help? It doesn't. It barely helps out. When they say, well, man, I got Social Security. Okay, I got it. Okay. You might have another $25,000 or $35,000 in Social Security. Cool. Well, Matt, isn't $25,000 and $35,000 enough to cover my $75,000 a year nut? Yes. Until what? You have a change in your health. How much money do you need extra to take care of yourself, quality of life wise? If you take it out of this, guess what? If it's in a traditional 401k or an IRA, and you have to accelerate withdrawals, that $50,000 has to go to maybe $60,000. Guess what? You have to pay additional of taxes. So, what money do you have set aside for health? It's probably the 5 gotchas of money in my book, Gotcha. They estimate that the average person in America today needs another $400,000 just for healthcare in retirement for the rest of your life. I just had a relative pass away on the East Coast, and they're spending $10,000 to $15,000 a month per month for healthcare. Because my Filipino auntie, little Filipino auntie, she cannot carry her larger English husband. So if you think $1 million is enough money for you to retire on, good luck. It's not enough. So when you're looking at...
It's a definition of crazy, doing the same thing.
So when you're looking at Adam Sosnick here, right? When you're looking at what he's doing. Okay. Can we take a look at what he's doing here?
Over and over and again, expecting different results. Breaking news, houses are the most expensive they've ever been. If you go to the store and you want to go
That's
buy
true.
a dress, and a dress is typically $1,000, but now it's $2,000, do you say, I don't care, I want that dress anyway? Not the Tommy Lauren that I know. She'll unplug the electricity and help the company save that money. So the thing is this.
Good job, Adam. What a good job. Got a smile out of her. Good job, Adam. See, by the way, game. This is game. To all of our men out there, that's game. Even though she's married. But he was able to still charm her. Okay? You got to smile. If you can help a woman get smile, boom. All right.
And if there's anything that my boss, my CEO, my friend, my mentor, PBD, and I fight about, it is the fact that young people should not focus on buying a house yet. If you're married, you have kids, and you know the neighborhood you want to live in, and all that fun stuff, go ahead, check the classifieds, get with your realtor, check the MLS, and go looking for houses. But if you're young, you're up and coming, you're not married, you're single, don't waste your money on a mortgage. You don't need it. You might be moving. You might be moving to Austin or Boston. You're coming to Miami. You might be going to Miami, Ohio. You don't know what the future holds. The reason for buying a house is to have permanency. Typically, you don't move into a house and then try to flip it like it's a day trader and a stock investment.
That's true.
So am I against buying real estate? No, I buy real estate. It's called REITs, 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 Real Estate Investment Trusts. I own a bunch of them. Why do I own that? Because I'm not trying to fix the plumbing. If the AC goes out, I'm not trying to fix the AC. I can barely fix a light bulb. You don't want me fixing light bulbs around the house. That's just not my thing. However, I will invest in real estate and an investment trust, just like I invest in the stock market. In my opinion, if you do apples to apples, stock market will double real estate investments over time. Not my opinion. Check the math. The historical rate of returns for the stock market is about 10%. The historical rate of returns for real estate,
Adam's probably going back to 1925. That's correct, right? But if you look at the historical you got to look at your 10, 20 years going forward. So if you're 1, 5, 10 going forward, right? Even though, because why? Past performance is no guarantee of future results. So you got to look at what the economic factor is going to be going forward. And the economy has changed a lot since the 1920s. I mean, to the point we were going to have one of the first stock exchanges here in Texas, here in Dallas, in the next year or so. And the last time a stock exchange was open was 20, 30 years ago. So a lot has changed. And by the way, this stock market, there's no floor. It's going to be just office space, no floor, like a typical stock exchange back in the day was created. And so what Adam's talking about is absolutely correct. And here's the thing too as well. Whatever you got money, whatever money you get saved up for retirement, make sure it's not exposed to losses. So let me give you my 5 gotchas of money. Can I go to this? Can I go to this screen? So let me show you look at you, Darian. Okay. All right. So the 5 gotchas of money. Okay. How do I write? Go to green pen. Okay. The 5 gotchas of money. By the way, this is the presentation and subject that I was talking to Nurses Week in 2012. And in the middle of that, guess who was listening? Sheena Helon, my now wife, because she was a Stryker medical sales rep selling hospital beds for Stryker Medical. So this conversation about the 5 gotchas of money is what I educate people on how to avoid the 5 gotchas of money in planning for your retirement. I've been talking about this since 2006, 2007, because I lived the Great Recession. I lived through ups and downs of the stock market, ups and downs of interest rates, ups and downs of the real estate market, ups and downs of people, good money, no money, jobless, laid off, 401k, 201k, $300,000 house become a $200,000 house with a $250,000 mortgage on it. This was birthed. This 5 gotchas of money was birthed through chaos. First one you got to avoid is got to avoid losses. No matter what you got going on in saving money for your financial future, avoid losses at all costs. How much more of your rate of return, Adam, right? If we were to remove every year that somebody lost money, because you have a 10% loss in 1 year, you need an 11, 12% return the next year just to get you back what you lost in that first year. And then 2 years just went by. If you suffered a 25% loss, like we did in 2022, as a 22% loss, you need a 35% rate of return just to get you back to square one. So in other words, whatever you lost, you need a 35% return just to get back to square one that you did 2 years ago, that you were at 2 years ago. So if you can avoid losses altogether, not only do you save yourself some heartache, but you save yourself a lot of time. Well, Matt, so you cap the upside, you cap the potential. You do. Inside index universal life products, index annuities, you cap the upside to guarantee what? No downside risk. The 5 guides to money strategies are based on safe money strategies afforded by the longest and tenured and wealthiest and richest industry in America, which is the life insurance industry. So you got to avoid losses. Number 2, healthcare. The average person today will need about $400,000 in healthcare because the number one reason why people file bankruptcy is because of change in health. You want to make sure that you have enough money set aside also for healthcare. Inside our policies, we have what we call critical or living benefits within inside the life insurance policies we set up, which a Roth IRA does not. It's a completely different structure, right? Roth IRA, especially you plan to make money. If you're part of the 7-figure squad, I'll tell you this right now, you can't afford to put money inside a Roth IRA. You make too much money. What's their next alternative? A maximum funded, minimum death benefit, structured-wise, index universal life policy with upside potential, no downside risk. And when you decide to pull that money out, whenever you decide to pull that money out, you don't pay a dime in tax. You don't have any pre-59 and a half withdrawal penalties, none of that stuff. So losses, healthcare to avoid. Number 3 are the 5 guides to money. Taxation. 3 tax buckets. Tax now, tax later, or tax never, or tax advantaged. Without me even going into details, which category would you rather have your money in? Tax now, tax later, or tax never, tax advantaged? I'm here all day long, baby. I can't tell you right now, based on the time I have in this live stream, but stay posted for future episodes and how we do it. We might even do a live stream, a live webinar, Zoom, and we break this down. Number 4. So first one is losses. Second one is healthcare. Third one is taxation. Fourth one is inflation. You have to have your money grow and exceed, or your salary grow and exceed what inflation is. Thank God I got involved in business, because guess what I was able to do? I was never impacted by inflation. What Biden did to this country, I was never impacted by inflation detrimentally. Now, did I see the higher gas prices? Yes. Did I see higher cost of goods and services? Yes. But I wasn't impacted detrimentally as the rest of America, because I chose, well, I was a renter, to reinvest that money into my business. And then eventually, because we were renting with purpose, we eventually became homeowners here in Frisco, Texas. Now this is considered the rising and coming new downtown of Dallas. They're calling it DFFW, Dallas, Frisco, Fort Worth. So whatever you got your money going into, your savings and investments, your income is got to be inflation. Otherwise, you get got. And for those of you like to travel, make sure you never travel to number 5. You never travel to this country. You never travel to this nation. Never take your passport here. Never visit here. Why? Because in this country, in this nation, in this population, dreams go to die. Talent is buried. Aspirations never see the light of day. Why? Because this nation is called procrasti. As in procrastination. You know what you need to do, but you don't do it. You know why? Fear kicks in. I had a talk last night with somebody who was very excited to go in business. I met them 30 days ago. Man, I'm so excited to go in business for myself. I'm 59 years old. I don't have any money for retirement. You know, we need more. We deserve more. My kid's getting married. It's thinking about renting one of our properties, but man, we're stuck. All of our money's trapped up inside equity. Hello, keep the keys. And I called her, all right, where's your license? Did you get just, I was just rethinking about this thing. Well, what happened? What happened for 30 days ago? You're so pumped up and excited. What happened? Well, if I'm going to be honest with you, fear kind of kicked in. Fear, but you're a woman of faith. Fear kicked in, huh? How many times in the Bible does God say, do not fear? 365 times. In other words, for every day of the week, remind yourself, do not fear. For God says, I'm the Lord your God. All things, right? All things through Christ. All things through Christ. But she forgot about that when it came to her business. It came to her money. Because I was feeding my fear. I wasn't feeding my faith. Every other time you're feeding your faith. How come you weren't feeding your faith when it came time to business? You know why? Because when it comes to finance, when it comes to money, okay, when it comes to dealing with procrastination, I believe that this is actually one diluted form of a sin. Because you know what you're supposed to do. God showed you the way. He gave you the resource, gave you the opportunity, gave you the divine appointment. And then what? Nothing? Come on, you're better than that. Seriously? Listen, man, I've been there, dude. I've been there, done it, man. It's just a muscle I learned how to blast past. The moment you have that natural desire to say no, you automatically do something that puts you in a physical state to say yes. Listen, I can't tell you every day of my days, I'm fired up, excited to do what I do. But listen, I do something physically, spiritually to get me past that, because that's the enemy at work too as well. You don't think the enemy has you on their radar? You want to do something big in your life. You don't think the enemy knows that and wants to put you on the radar? Because the moment you see something that God has purpose for your life, knowing that you're about to push back the gates of hell, guess what the enemy's doing? Do you think the enemy is a strong work ethic too? You think you got a strong work? You think God's got a strong work ethic? The enemy's got a stronger work ethic than most people. 24/7, he's looking to steal, kill, and destroy your God-given dreams and talents and abilities. And where they love to hang out is this country here called procrastination. Matter of fact, you don't even need a passport. Go there, free access. Everybody's broke, if not physically dead. They're buried, talents and dreams and goals buried in the ground. Because what happens when you don't know everything, but you have the faith to still take that step forward? Lord, I don't know, but maybe I need to buy a house. Maybe I need to rent, but you don't do anything about it. You stay stuck. God don't want you stagnant. He wants you constantly in motion. Not lukewarm, either hot or cold, but not lukewarm. He'll spit you out to his mouth. He wants you hot or cold. You choose. And so when Adam here is talking about, Adam's talking about, you might not even realize it, he's talking about a very spiritual issue. Let's continue with what Adam here has to say to complete the segment.
Your house about 3 to 5%. I am non-emotional when it comes to investments. Now, I know that's sort of counterculture to everyone. Everyone says, go to college, get a job, buy a house. Do you need to go to college anymore? Do you need to go get a job at a certain company and work there for 40 years? Or can you start your own company and become an entrepreneur? To me, the whole methodology of do this is now broken. I haven't had a car in 13 years.
Yeah,
People are like, how do you get around? Have you ever heard of Uber? Have you ever heard of Lyft? I have lots of friends in New York who get around just fine on the subway and Uber and taxis. Nobody questions somebody in New York why they don't have a car. It's the same thing that's going on right now. Last point right here. Did you ever read a book, Tommy, called Who Moved My Cheese? I read it in high school. You ever heard this book? The premise is this.
So
there's these two mice.
The sequel to this book is Who Squeezed My Cheese. I'm just kidding. But very good book if you haven't read it yet. Who Moved My Cheese? In other words, this rat is used to having his cheese in a certain way. Keeps the same path, keeps the same path. Next thing you know, boom. One day, goes the same path, it's not there no more. Who moved my cheese?
And they're in a maze, and every day they show up, and the cheese is there for them. And what happens is, one day, someone moved the cheese. And then you have Mouse A over here who goes, hold on, what's going on here? Where's the cheese? What do I do? And he makes a decision to go out and find more cheese. The other mouse is basically like, look, man, I'm just going to wait around because I'm used to the cheese being here. A day goes by, a week goes by, a month goes by. This guy's starving, and he had to basically adapt. You ever heard of Darwinism? Adapt or die. The problem is this: adaptation and pivoting will lead to success. If you're just sitting around waiting.
Woo! The only thing constant is change, baby. I love that. The only thing constant is change. If we have a saying around here, it says, if you're not growing, you're dying. If you're not evolving and growing, you're dying. And by the way, capitalism, free enterprise in itself will eliminate those wannabes. For case in point, if we were to Google, all right, if we were to Google, let me see this, companies still on the original S&P 500. Okay, the original companies listed on the S&P 500. Let's take a look at this. AI wants to warm. Okay, 53. Only 53. Only 53 of the original 500 companies from the S&P 500's inception in 1957 remain on the list. What happened? These were some of the top 500 companies in all America, publicly traded, holding themselves accountable to American investors, holding themselves accountable to conference calls and quarterly reports, right? End of the month reports, end of the month conference calls, projected earnings, meeting those projected earnings. 53 of the regional 500 companies from the S&P 500's inception in 1957 remain on the list. What does that tell you? You've got to improve. The other 90% of the company, of the S&P 500 companies, didn't improve. Some of the companies still on this original S&P 500 list, the names are 3M, Abbott Laboratories, Altria, American Electric Power, Archer Daniels Midland, Boeing, Bristol Myers Squibb, Campbell Soup Company. Surviving original S&P 500 companies. So you got to grow. And as we wrap up this topic of renting versus owning, we rented with purpose. The difference between owning a house and renting was here. My wife and I were already cash flow millionaires. We still chose to rent for another 3 years because we're saving that difference into staff. In other words, instead of going to equity inside the house, we took that same cash and reinvested into staff, personnel, office space. So we invested back into the machine that was paying the mortgage. Sometimes people have a big windfall in sales. People have a big windfall in 1 or 2 great months, three great months, and they buy a brand new car, they buy a brand new house. Next thing you know, lifestyle creep just kicked in. They go shopping, Louis Vuitton, they shop it all. Guys, I still shop sometimes at Marshalls and TJ Maxx. If you go in my closet right now, there's some tags there, some clothes that my wife and I wanted me to wear last in Bahamas. They're from TJ Maxx. I have no shame in my game. The only person I want to improve for is my family. The only person I want to impress is God. And by the church this past Sunday, they're doing a campaign for buying new chairs in a sanctuary. No problem. And here's the coolest part. My son was paying attention to my tithes and offerings at church. First time in my history of my son watching me in church, first time my son looked over what I was giving on the app to fund the new chairs in a sanctuary. He looked at me like, Dad, you giving that much? I said, I am, handsome. I'm commanded to give because I don't own this. I'm a steward of this. I'm a manager. None of this stuff is mine. I just happen to live here. The earthly title is mine, but the actual title, who owns it, is the big man upstairs. My job is to multiply it. I want to be like that servant in the parable of the talents that was blessed with the most amount of talents because he had the most amount of ability. And when he was blessed with the most talents and with the most money, guess what he did with that money? He multiplied it. He didn't sit on it and chill, relax. I'm not saying not to do that once in a while. You got to have your Sabbath. You got to enjoy your time. You got to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's why I don't believe in this word called retirement either. I don't believe in this word retirement. Nowhere in the Bible does it give me evidence that you're supposed to make a lot of money, put your money in the towers in your fields, and just relax and be non-productive. No evidence of that. In fact, the evidence I see in Leviticus, they're encouraging the older Levites, all the older pastors and worship leaders to go mentor the younger generation of the Levites. In the cities they were blessed to lead in. All right. Go to the next one. Good job, Adam Sosnick, my man. Zombie mortgage. What's a zombie mortgage? Let's take a look at this.
In a foreclosure sale.
Okay.
Door one morning and hearing, I bought your house, move out. That's exactly what happened to Scott and Carrie Amable. They lost their home in a foreclosure sale.
Even though they had paperwork showing the debt had been canceled years earlier.
The culprit? A zombie mortgage, an old written-off loan that suddenly comes back to life. Here's how it works. Back in the early 2000s, a lot of people took out second mortgages. When the 2008 housing crash hit, the banks assumed many of those loans would never be repaid, so they just wrote them off. But some debt buyers have scooped them up for pennies on the dollar. Now, nearly 2 decades later, they're demanding huge payments. Borrowers have alleged they didn't receive statements for the debts. But for the debt collectors, sometimes the threat of foreclosure alone is enough to get people to pay back staggering amounts of back interest. Our investigation found as many as 600,000 second mortgages from the subprime era could still be outstanding.
Wow.
In some cases, they're pocketing returns as high as 3,000%. We spoke with experts who say the law isn't so clear-cut. Without regular statements, lenders may not be legally entitled to collect years of back interest. And depending on the state and how much time has passed, homeowners may not owe anything at all. Some states have passed protections against zombie debt collectors. But at the federal level,
Efforts stalled when the Trump administration scaled back the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
the very agency created after the 2008 crisis to prevent abuses like this. Zombie mortgages aren't just history. They're still haunting homeowners today. Want to know if you're at risk? Read our full investigation at Bloomberg.com. Imagine.
Okay. So, zombie mortgage. This is an example of trapped equity. This is why it's one thing to get the keys, but it's another thing to keep the keys. And we're going to be discussing some of these strategies come up at our next event called Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey on November 12th. So if you want to connect with me live in person here in Dallas, go to my website here, cigarswealthandwhiskey.com, cigarswealthandwhiskey.com, and get your tickets November 12th. By the way, right now we have another 3 or 4 days of it being on sale before it goes back up to regular price. But that is a way for you to connect with not only financial literacy, but the movers and shakers of the 174,000 people that moved into Dallas the last 12 months. We've been asked to do this across the country too as well in different cities and states. Who knows? But right now, temporarily, I am on a national book tour with Keep the Keys. So we're kind of combining. We're kind of combining Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey, which is really a glorified mastermind association, higher level, upscale type of an event where we can connect with people and help shape mindsets and help create awarenesses and inject that financial literacy people need to have in a multicultural demographic in America today. That's called Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. But also we're combining the Keep the Keys book together because while I'm at this Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event, people are asking for my books. And so my next one coming up here is in San Antonio this coming Thursday. I'll be in Little Rock, Arkansas the following Thursday. To find out future locations where I'll physically be at, we have an opportunity to meet, shake hands. I can sign your book. You can jump into our classes and jump into our masterminds and networking. Go to keepthekeysbook.com, keepthekeysbook.com, and find the nearest location date to you, or come out and fly out. I know here in Dallas, we're doing a big one November 15th in Dallas. So if you want to see not only my operation, but also want to see the Keep the Keys book tour being done here, and then we go to Cigar Lounge after that, November 15th, Keep the Keys book tour, and Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey right after. So this young lady here, feel sorry for her. I feel sorry for a lot of 20-year-olds to an extent, because I had my rough 20s, but I didn't have social media to complain on it. I didn't have social media to express my dissatisfaction with what's going on in the economy today. What many of us did in our 20s back in the 90s is we sucked it up and we found solutions. Now, I'm not saying that this is what this young lady's talking about, but let's take a look at her opinion, what's going on, being 26 years old and $95,000 in debt. Let's take a look at this.
About the fact I'm 26 years old and I'm in $95,487.73 worth of debt, and I want to talk about it. Up until 24 hours ago, I did not know that was actually the total of all of my debt, credit cards and student loans.
Problem
that
right
number
there.
also does not include my auto loan, and if we are adding in my auto loan, the total number is $110,938.83. Since totaling up all of my debt, I don't think I've actually gotten one good breath of oxygen in the last 24 hours. I feel like there is an elephant sitting on my chest, and I don't think I can sit still because all I keep repeating is $95,487.73. All of this debt was racked up through decisions I made between the ages of 18 and 26. My first associate's degree I got from a community college, and I didn't have to pay for it because of the Pell Grant, but I decided to go to a university and got my bachelor's degree, which is where I really started to rack up the debt. Then in the last 2 years, I decided to finish a nursing degree at a community college in the last 2 years, but that's where I started to rack up even more debt. What really sucks is realizing that the majority of these student loans is not from tuition. It's actually from living expenses and living way above my means. My debt comprises of 2 credit cards, 5 federal student loans, and 5 private Sallie Mae loans. I can handle the federal student loans, but when I tell you Sallie Mae is bending me over and not in a way I like, it's actually insane. Sallie Mae is genuinely evil, and they prey on young students. And the reason why they take advantage of young students is because they know if you're reaching out to a private loan like that, you genuinely need it. Out of the 5 Sallie Mae loans I have, one of the interest rates that is the highest is 16.28%. The lowest interest rate I have with Sallie Mae is 9.88%. Now, my federal student loans are between 4 and 6%, which I think is manageable. Although I had parents who would tell me what I should or shouldn't do, I never had anybody really sit me down and fully teach me financial literacy. I never had anybody sit me down and really explain to me the scope of what I was doing and what it would look like in the future when I had to pay for it. In the moment, all of the student loans just felt like fake money because they just kept coming and I just kept spending. I don't regret any of the experiences I've had between the ages of 18 and 26 or any of the things that I've done, but I do wish that I managed my finances way better than this. If I snowball all of my loans at the current rates that they are without consolidating them, I can pay all of this off by 2032. It's really sad because I'm excited about starting my first nursing job next month, but at the same time, I know that all of the money I'm making is going to debt. It is what it is, what's done is done, and at the end of the day, if you are in your early 20s and you're thinking about taking out student loans, I urge you to reconsider and ask yourself whether or not you really truly need it. If I knew then what I know now, I would tell myself that no experience, no desire, no want is worth the stress that I feel now. I recently posted about the
Yeah, I'm just curious here. Where is the cost of college tuition projected to rise? If you thought college is bad now, think what college is going to be in the future. They're not making it easy for us to see it. But the Northeast had the highest average tuition for in-state residents at a four-year public college in 2024. Sticker price versus actual cost. Okay. They're not easily sharing this here. The average cost of college in the United States is $38,000 per year. Okay, that's average. I'll tell you in Dallas, University of UNT, I think is about $67,000. If you want to go to TCU, Texas Christian here in Fort Worth, $80,000 a year. Very expensive. So I have 5 kids, 3 of them older kids. I talked to them a long time ago about financial literacy. I talked to them a long time ago about the decision you're about to sign your name to. Because once you sign your name to something, you own it. It's yours. Take ownership of it. And so my daughters, because I have twins, they were so giddy about going to college. Poppy, we're going to college. We're going to go to downtown Chicago. We're going to go to Columbia College. I said, babe, what are you going to study? Dance. Mother, daughter, English, because I want to be a poet. You want to go to college and learn dance? For how much? And being alone for 20, I'll help you pay for your college. I got you. But the other half, you got to pay for, because here's why. I don't believe you pay 100% for your kids' college tuition, they're going to value anything they get for free. That's why people don't value getting student loan debts. They think it's just like her, what she just said. It's just money coming out. It's surreal. I don't think it was real money. You know why? Because there's no forcible method of you paying it now. I promise you, while she's getting her student loan debt and she had to pay it every month, every semester, she'd feel that debt. But no, defer that loan. By the way, I totally agree with her. Sally, man, the way the whole college education tuition system to borrow money for college is completely preying upon not only young students, but also young families who have to go on Parent Plus loans or find ways to house their kids, educate their kids, raise their kids. It's preying on them due to lack of financial literacy. And what did we learn in the last 4 or 5 years? If they wanted to inject financial literacy into our school system, they could have done that. But no, they injected something else into our school system. Certain books. Got a book over here that we want removed from our kids' library. It was a different school system. That's why we're homeschooling our kids. We private school our kids now we homeschool our kids. But there's certain nasty agenda right now that we feel in the public school system, in the private school system. And it may not be here to educate you to be a more marketable, more of a contributing citizen to America. I don't know what it's going to contribute to, the things that some of these folks are learning, some of the degrees that some people are obtaining. For what? To pay this much interest on a $80,000, $90,000 in loan? And so I applaud her because she said, what? I didn't know. I wrote this in my notes here. I didn't know. In scripture, it talks about you making sure you know what you're signing up for. In Luke chapter 14, verse 28 says this. It says, you want to count the cost. Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see you have enough money to complete it? For if you lay the foundation and are not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule you, saying, this person began to build, but wasn't able to finish. And so, count the cost. Figure out what it's like. That's what I do with my daughters. Sure, you want to do it? Babe, forget going to college. Go into workforce now. Go work for Disney. Ask your auntie Jocelyn, my sister, your auntie, what it takes to work at Disneyland to be maybe a magic girl. That's what my sister, she became an Orlando magic girl. She danced at Disney, became Pocahontas, became Jasmine, became, in the show, The Nutcracker, she became the dirty snowflake. But she made money. No student loan debt. My sister doesn't have a student loan debt. I don't have any student loan debt. And I'm sitting there in the counselor's office, and this smug counselor advisor in her beautiful straight hair, well, I went to Notre Dame. Good for you. Good for you. Who says my daughter has to go to Notre Dame? And she sat back. I was like, oh. So, babe, what's your outcome of going to college? She goes, to make money. I want to live like a life like you, Poppy. I want to make a lot of money too. Then I'm telling you right now, going to college is an option. It's not the only option. It is a option. But let's count the cost. This is what it costs for you to go to college for this degree. And this is what you're going to be facing in 4 or 5 years. And I had to read all sorts of newspaper clippings, all sorts of TikToks, all sorts of stuff about what happens when kids go to school 4 or 5 years later and they go, oh man, I got a job where? Starbucks, Nordstrom's. Guess what happened? My daughters didn't go to college. 1 year, 2 years. Poppy, maybe we need to go to college. No, stick with your career. My other daughter, she went to esthetician school. Anyway, make a long story short, 4 or 5 years later, see, Poppy, you are right. I hate to say it, Poppy, but you are right. See, baby, the older you get, the older and wiser I become. And so they learn from that. So kudos to my daughters from learning from other people, not me, but from other people's mistakes. All right. Next one up here is, what do we got here? Next one up. We're looking at, speaking of financial literacy, let's take a look at what Magic Johnson said about a missed opportunity, and we'll wrap up with this. What did Magic Johnson say about his missed opportunity due to lack of financial literacy? Let's take a look at this.
He came in and said, hey, I can't offer you the same type of money, but I can offer you stock.
Okay, so this is Phil Knight, the CEO of Nike, offering 100,000 of shares to Magic Johnson, or cash.
Wasn't trying to hear that then.
I wasn't trying.
I wasn't trying to hear that then.
And I didn't know nothing about it.
Can you tell us a story about the time you declined equity with Nike?
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy.
3 companies came in. So Converse, Adidas, and Nike. Nike was just a year or 2 old. Converse offered me the most money. So, you know, when you grow up broke, you take the money.
We talked to Magic, and he turned down a similar deal.
I know, but his he had a little bit of time. I was in 1972 and 73. Nike came out with this shoe. I said, yeah, I would wear it because Phil Knight, we were all up in Portland and Seattle. So he came and said, would you wear my shoe? I said, yeah, of course I wear it. We Northwest boys, we down. Said, okay, I'm gonna give you some stock in this company. First of all, I was young too, and I'm thinking, livestock?
Yeah.
Livestock.
Livestock. What are you talking about, stock?
And my family didn't come from money.
Yeah. By the way, that's what, talk about financial literacy. I thought when somebody put your money inside a 401k, I thought 401k, I want to invest, not run a long ass race. I thought a 401k was a race.
See, that's one thing that hurt us sometimes when you don't come from money. You don't know what, I didn't even know what stocks was at that time, right? So I passed on the stocks. Damn. Can you imagine? 45 years. Oof. $5 billion that stock would have been worth today. Oof.
My boy that I let do the negotiation, he was like struggling, you know, have the bills taken care of. So he was like convincing me, man, that shoe is never going to work. Because when I was running down the floor, guys would come behind me and pop my shoe off.
So they could step on your heel and
step
pull
on
it
my
off?
heel. That Nike didn't have the
Technology
it was new.
yet.
It
No
was a running
technology.
shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Prefontaine. Yeah, that's kind of shoe.
Prefontaine? That's crazy.
So it popping off. So I'm like, well, maybe. So I said, okay, man, I'll give you the power of attorney. Let me just go play. I got to play.
focus on
I
that.
got to really focus on this game now because this is my chance. And when I came back, he had so much shit. I said, man, I got the cash right here.
100,000, how much?
100,000.
So any idea what that could have been today? 10%?
It was up around 2.7 billion years ago.
You still friends with him?
Yes.
Okay, so couple things here. Just a takeaway. Buying stock, earning stock is the long game. I'll give you an example. My wife and I were in this conversation. So we had an exit June of 2022 of our company, PHP Agency. We had an exit, and Integrity Marketing Group acquired us. My wife got a lot. My wife and I, we got a lot of shares at the company. Stock was awarded to us because we earned it through sales goals and quotas that we hit, and we led the company for a good chunk of time. And make a long story short, I don't ever think about selling that stock. Because what did you just hear in this conversation? 20, 30, 40 years later, that would have been billions of dollars. That's what I'm hoping my stock turns into, which is invoking my two favorite words, delayed gratification. So when our company, eventually when it comes public one day, guess what we're not going to do? Do the dumb thing and doing what? Dumping our stock. We might take a loan against it, right? We might take a little bit off, mitigate some risk, but a lion's share of that stock is going to be there for the long term. And the cool part is we're still at the company and we're still driving the sales growth of the company. So we're really driving our stock value anyway. So I'm trusting myself with our own hands. So if you're out there right now, as you wrap up this live stream, financial literacy is helping you make educated decision. I say week in, week out. How good is this device in your hand? Whether it's an Android, a Google device, an iPhone, whatever. How good is a cell phone with all of its functionality? How good would this be in your hand if you don't know how to read and write? The only thing you know how to do is look at pictures and verbally speak what you're thinking about. You'd have to depend on this iPhone being in the possession of a translator, and you hope that they translate whatever you're sending and receiving in the right way, in the way you hope that it does. Otherwise, you relinquish what? You relinquish control. You relinquish liquidity. You relinquish opportunity. You invoke what? More failure to come your way simply because one didn't invest in financial literacy. And I post about financial stuff all the time. I can't tell you how many financial experts are online right now because they took one financial literacy class and they have one scenario. And one scenario doesn't fit everybody's scenario. You got to be, as a person, as a financial coach, you got to be able to be versatile in the guidance and advice and the scenarios that people have in your terms of coaching and counseling, because what may fit for you may not be a fit for them. What may be a fit for them may not be a fit for you. And so when people out there in America, broad brush stroking, when you hear the Dave Ramsey, you should never do this. I never do it. Those words I never want to hear. Because today, financial products, insurance products, and policies have been invented, have been evolved and grown because every industry has to improve, right? That's what capitalism does. These insurance companies hear the problems in the marketplace and they create products that show up those problems and mistakes by giving affordable ways, an opportunistic way for a policyholder to give up their premium, their money, in exchange for promises of a life insurance company for safety and control. It's not just invest. That's cool. That's part of the story. But a part of it is also laying the financial foundation on your financial house. So therefore, you can build the strong walls on a strong foundation, because if a financial hurricane comes through, you can still build on what? Your financial foundation. By the way, these winds of life, these financial hurricanes come very often. Once a year, they're going to come. Watch. They do come. And don't be in a position where you're constantly putting things on debt. You're just allowing that financial hurricane, that financial storm to be even worse years on down the road. That being said, guys, appreciate your time and attention. As YouTube live here every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm on the Keep the Keys book tour. every week until mid-November. And make sure you go to our website here at keepthekeysbook.com. Also, if you want to connect with me, I'm Connect. You've got some questions, you got some thoughts, some strategies, connect with me on Connect. This is a guaranteed way for me to get back to you. You want me to get back to you? I may miss out on the DMs. I miss out on some of the comments, but I do check all my Connects. So here's the QR code. Screenshot it. Connect with me on Connect. You got a question for me? Send it. It's a guaranteed way for me to get back to you. If you want to attend our next event here in Dallas, in Frisco area, at the Frisco Hall, on November 12th, I'm hosting an upscale mastermind and networking event. I do this once a quarter called Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. Last month, we had Marlon Wayans come out, and we've just uploaded the video, the interview. If you guys want to check it out too as well. But outside of that, we had an even more amazing experience with just the connections and a new relationship being formed, being built throughout Dallas-Fort Worth area through our Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey event. If you found some value in this, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel here, Seven Figure Squad. And don't forget to the other channel we have is the Just Earn It podcast, which are long-form interviews here with movers and shakers. Make sure you visit that website, that YouTube channel, which is the Just Earn It podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that too as well. That being said, don't forget to subscribe to this Seven Figure Squad YouTube channel. Drop your biggest takeaways in the comment section below. And also drop in the comments, what other topics do you want me to be covering in future Millionaire Respond lives on YouTube here at the Seven Figure Squad channel. That being said, guys, God bless you. Hope I see you in person to go from online to offline, connecting a YouTube conversation to an actual conversation in person and shaking hands. Look forward to connecting with you in an event near you. Till we meet again. Continue to live smart, continue to love smart, and be money smart today. God bless you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.